So we are recording this meeting and we are going to be uploading it to our project page over the next couple of days. So if you have to jump off at any point and you want to see what happened, or if you have a neighbor who wanted to see the conversation that occurred, they can go to the project page, and I'm going to put that in the chat. Let's see. Oh, Christine beat me to it. Okay, cool. So I wanted to say hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Bea Chatfield, and I am the Parks Project Manager for this project. I am going to be honest with you. I am really excited and a little bit nervous for tonight. This has been a very exciting project to work on, and it has been an honor to get to know a lot of you. This is a project that has had a lot of input, and so we're happy to be in front of you tonight and sharing the design. And I hope that you guys are as happy with the results as I am. So let's go on to the next slide. These are some Zoom tips. If you guys are not acquainted with Zoom, we're going to ask that you keep your microphone off during our presentation. If you want to keep your camera on or off, you can do that either way. What we're going to do is a presentation. I'm going to talk for a little bit, and then our designers are going to do the design presentation. And then we're going to have a conversation where you can raise your hand and unmute yourself once Christine calls on you. We're here with Christine from Parks Department as well. So if you have any thoughts during the presentation, any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. And if it's a simple answer, we can just respond on the chat during the presentation. If it's something that deserves a little bit more discussion, we will address it during the conversation. We will try to address everything. Everything that's put in the chat tonight is part of the record for the meeting. We're taking notes as well, and we are recording the meeting. So all of the participation tonight, we are taking into account and counting towards our public feedback. So if we can go on to the next slide. Here is our agenda, project team introduction. I'm going to talk a little bit about the overview, then I'll pass it off to our designers for the presentation. Then we'll have a listening and discussion, and then we will share closing remarks and next steps. We could go on to the next slide. Bea Chatfield, project manager. This is my email and my direct phone number. If you have any thoughts, please send me emails. A number of you already have already. If you want to talk over the phone, I'm happy to do that too. We're here with Christine Brandeo, our outreach coordinator, and our design team is Jade Cummings and Kellyanne Connolly, and we're also here with Kelly Ashton, three wonderful designers from Terra Inc. Landscape Architecture. They're very talented, and they've been busy incorporating a lot of different input. We've also been working with Tiffany Caballero from ONS, so I think a number of you are familiar with her as well. If we could go on to the next slide. So here we are, project overview. Here is our project schedule. We had our first community meeting way back in January of last year. So we've been doing the community process for quite some time at this point. Community meeting 1, 2 was in May, and community meeting 3 was in September of 2022. It was at community meeting 3 that we shared the plans for a dog area in this park. And we had heard interest at community meeting 1 and 2, and there was enough interest by community meeting 2, and we were sort of told to start looking at that as an option. So by community meeting 3, we shared that design idea, put out a survey, and here we are now at community meeting 4. We have had an overwhelming amount of support for a dog area. We've also heard some very specific feedback as to why it's not a great idea. So we are aware of the fact that not everybody is going to be happy, but we've had so many conversations about this issue in this park. We do feel like we have we have heard a lot of information from a lot of different people. So spring 2023, we're going to be going into permitting and design development of our construction documents. And then fall of 2023 is when we will begin construction. And then the following spring, 2024, is when we would be opening the park. So next slide, I'm going to pass the presentation off to our design team. And once again, if you have any thoughts or questions, feel free to put them in the chat. And
yeah, I think Councilor Flaherty is here if he wants to say anything. I saw his
that's
name pop
great.
up.
Thanks, Christine.
Councilor?
Hi, good evening, everybody. We're just touching base, and I guess my ask is if it's a foregone conclusion, just as a citywide city council, my experience with dog parks across the city, only ask I have is that the direct abutters get kind of last look, if you will. They get, that their concerns kind of get weighted a little more heavily than other folks that may not live directly across the street or next door to the park. So, I'll reach out to the commissioner just to express those sentiments as well. So again, if the decision's made and this is where the dog park's going to go, then the only ask as a citywide council is that the direct abutters at at that appropriate stage, they kind of get sort of last and final input with respect to the dog runs and the layout, et cetera. So, and I appreciate your time and attention. Good to see everybody.
Thank you, Councilor Flaherty. I appreciate that. So I think if we can go to the presentation by the design team.
Okay, thank you, Bea. Thank you, everyone, for your time this evening. Again, this has been an involved process. We appreciate all of the community feedback. So we will run through. I know for those of you who have participated in the meetings to date, some of this information you've seen several times. So I'll just briefly review the existing conditions summary, tree analyses, where we were with the dog park, early concept design, survey results, and then we will review the new design concepts. So beginning with the existing conditions, if you remember, just over a year ago, our first order of business for almost every project is to really understand the neighborhood context. Who are the people using this place? Where are they coming from? We did an extensive site analysis. We evaluated the circulation, the open space, the edges, and of course, we heard off the bat, community meeting number one, one element within this urban park that everyone is super proud of, super interested in, were the trees, which of course is a landscape architect that made us very happy to hear. So as we've been going through this process over the last year, as design recommendations were being made and opinions were being shared, we kept at the forefront of our priority the preservation of as many existing trees as possible, in addition to other elements such as pedestrian safety, visibility, and accessibility. Every conversation we've had regarding this park has involved those items. When we started with the tree analysis, we, along with Boston Parks, enlisted the services of a licensed tree arborist to be certain that it wasn't just our opinion about what should remain or what should not remain, but this is really the moment where we wanted to analyze the existing trees to understand what should remain and which trees are at the end of their life. And this is a good time to remove and replace as possible. Evaluated each of the trees to come up with our information. And as you'll see with the design concept, we have maintained as many of these trees as possible to accommodate all of our project goals. So after the community meeting number 3, as Bea said, during community meeting number 2, we heard that there was an interest in a dog area. And community meeting number 3, we presented a concept, a rough concept for what a dog area would entail. And these were the results that we received. So on the right, we have the dog run considerations and the diagram that we presented. to explain really at first the logistics of if we want to have a dog area in this park, where can we have a dog area in the park? And during the last meeting, we explained we need to have a 100-foot buffer from abutting residences. And then understanding too, maintaining the existing tree canopy that I just discussed. And for those of you familiar with the park, you well know that in this zone, there is an existing slope. It's a very steep bank in that area. We did not want to encroach on that for several reasons, tree preservation being one, and just earthwork removal and changing the character of the park. So that said, this diagram illustrates really we were left, this is the zone where we could accommodate a dog run. For the residents who participated in the survey, you can see on the left, generally where people were living. It was nice to see that 89% of the respondents were from Jamaica Plain. And then as you will see, 79.27% of the participants were interested in having a dog element, whereas 20.73% were not. So with that information, working closely with Bea and her team, we moved forward to revise a design, and it was really, we really understood. We really could feel the passion coming from both sides. So it's a tricky position for us, and we, given all of the existing conditions and our design goals, we did our best to accommodate everything that we were hearing from everyone. Again, to reiterate what Bea said, understanding that not everyone will be 100% happy, we did our best. And so here we have, this is the design concept that we have developed. And what you will see here, I will just say the orange dots are, it's a pretty strong graphic, but the orange dots represent where we have walkways that are accessible. So we were able to, through early site grading studies, which is where we begin to do technical drawings to manipulate the grading to make sure that we accommodate slope tolerances so that everyone can safely enter and navigate throughout the park. We have been able to accommodate accessibility off of Cornwall Street, off of Brookside Avenue, and from the upper level health parking lot. So those are the orange dots throughout the property. And as I just explained with the dog park diagram, we have reserved this area, which is currently, as you well know, it's an open asphalt zone. We're proposing the dog area where we were told we could have a dog area, but we really understood and we were grappling with how do we get that open space that we know the kids enjoy. So what we did was we took that existing star, again, for those of you familiar, the star that is existing in the pavement, and we literally took the same shape and size, and not that this is going to be a literal representation, but this is more to help you understand scale. At this time, this is the dog area. This overall upper terrace is going to be the play area. The bluish zone will be more for active play. The orange-ish zone will be for open, unprogrammed play. And then over in this area to the right of the plan, we've maintained the Ladybug Rock. And this is where we're hoping to have more of that passive seating. The kids can crawl on rocks. We can have picnic tables under the existing tree canopy to really create zones throughout the park to accommodate as many users as possible. So this is the current thinking, again, maintaining accessibility and the trees throughout the park. Then just a few more slides and then we can open this for conversation. As we break down these areas that I just discussed, it is important to note we are still in early feasibility. So the play structures and elements that you see on the right, these are not for certain. We will be working with a playground consultant to make sure we are accommodating children of different age groups and abilities. We're always focused with playground design and making sure we're accommodating balance, motion, sensory play, and then again having that natural zone off to the side that will offer another experience for elders in the community to sit, children in the community to jump on rocks, and of course maintaining the ladybug rock. So we have, and as an example of that, these are types of play elements where we can really work on balance with the stepping and the climbing elements. Then we're working elements where the children can really understand motion and the feel of their body in space with swinging, spinning, and slides. And then the visual and auditory discovery. So the just getting, the kids just getting them out there to really activate all of their senses. So that is our presentation. I'm sure there will be questions which we will be happy to address at this time.
Yeah, so I think there are a number of questions in the chat that have been coming through. That was a great presentation though, Jade. Thank you for walking us through all of that. The first question had to do, so this is sort of statistics, I think, right? It's how many trees are we taking out versus how many are we proposing? We have tried to balance that. I think and confirm the numbers, please, Jade. I think we were removing, there was 12 individual trees throughout the park. There is also essentially a grove of difficult to differentiate, but invasive species trees. So that is more than 12, but I'm not sure what that, yeah, so we've got there. And our proposed trees, I think we are proposing 12 additional trees or 13, I think at this point, Jade.
That is correct. That is correct. And it's understanding, it's early on, but yes, to reiterate, where we have the orange X's, these are the trees that will need to be removed primarily due to their existing condition. And then there are a couple of this tree, for instance, we will be removing to accommodate the open space due to the root disruption that will likely occur during construction. This number 17 tree will be removed. And then, as you said, we have a grove of invasive species along the southern side of the property that will be removed. And then in the new plan, we're proposing approximately 12, again, understanding as we get into the details that if we can add more trees, we will certainly do that. But you can see in this zone, we're going to replace the invasive species with new trees along this area, and then inserting where possible, both to replace the tree removals, but also to get shade into these areas. We have new trees. We have a new tree in this location, and then in these locations throughout the park.
Okay, and if there is room for more, we can add more, but I appreciate the question. There was also questions about the square footage of the play area and the square footage of the dog area. So Kelly, Ashton, I don't know if you have the ability or the knowledge off the top of your head, or Jade, either of you, but if it takes sort of a CAD measurement, if you could put that in the chat. There were some comments on the survey, and I understand that certain people think it was biased in a certain direction. We were trying very hard to get a neutral response or trying to present it neutrally, saying who's interested in this, who is opposed to this. Boston Parks and Recreation has a long track record of shutting down the option of a dog area. So we were not coming at this with a goal of installing a dog park. If you look at the recordings from the first two meetings, I was eagerly not open to that idea, I guess is the nicest way to put it. And there was enough of a groundswell of support that we are going to include it. So the details on the dog park itself, are going to be developed as we go. We are going to be working with Friends of JP Dog Parks and a few of their representatives to sort of understand what the best, layout options are. Is it 2 gates? Is it 1 gate? We're going to be including dog bags. We're going to have some seating in there. So that design right now, we're basically just showing the outlines for that. So it's basic right now. It will get fleshed out and it will serve dogs in a good way. And so I'm gonna shut up. There's some other questions about the play equipment that we're proposing, so we can go back over that too. But I also want to give people a chance to talk. So we've got some people raising their hands here.
Yeah, we do have someone on the phone. I want to let them unmute themselves first in case they want to say something. If you want to hit *9, if you want to. If not, I will go to Jacqueline and friends.
Hi, my name's Joaquin, and I live down the street. And where's the sport area?
Jade, do you want to talk about that?
Sure. So right now, Joaquin, thank you for your question. The area in this zone, this orangish colored zone, this is going to be an open asphalt area. We have not gotten into the further detail of, do we want to have a basketball hoop? But at this time, this area, I know that the dog park area is roughly 7,500 square feet. So we took that star that is existing in this area and we placed it up here, but we'll get those final numbers to you momentarily. So this upper area will be open for play, kicking a soccer ball, throwing ball.
Also, is there going to be any water?
Very good question. With the design changes, it was determined that the water play would not be conducive with the new design, so no.
But drinking fountains, yes. So if your question's drinking fountains, yes, we will include those. But yeah, water play was something that would not fit with all of the other elements.
And the drinking fountain is in this location.
Thank you for this. I know you all are trying to put together a variety of different pieces. As my kiddo said, we live down the street. And I just think it's a really missed opportunity to put a water feature in, considering what our summers really look like. And in this part of JP, the closest one is Green Street, and it is always full. And so just voicing, because this kiddo also had a question about water features, that I think that's a really big missed opportunity. The other thing I know, I have emailed you about this is the only part on this side of the tracks that has a playground. And so the idea that we're taking space and we're allocating it to dog parks where children in the Eggleston Square community don't have access to playgrounds, or open spaces aside from like Franklin Park, if you like make the hike up. I just think that's a big takeaway from this part of the community. But thank you.
David?
Go. A couple of quick questions about the trees. One is, where is the steep slope that you don't want to have trees on? And the other is, the ones that are X'd out, are they disease trees? You say they can't be, they can't remain. Is that because there are too many trees, or because all those trees are sick and would have to be removed anyway?
Very good question, David. The majority of trees to be removed have been evaluated by an arborist. And the majority of them were identified as having a diseased or dying condition, or a condition that, you know, you can imagine after construction, there's going to be a lot of disruption to some of these tree roots, and we want to make sure that we don't leave the park with any liability. So this tree analysis provides photo documentation of the trees that were recommended to be removed with a brief explanation as to why.
Tracy?
Hello, how are you? So I am Tracy Billy, Director Butter, and I know most of you here. I wanted to reiterate what Flaherty, Councilor Flaherty had asked, and ask again if abutters will be given the final look at or decision making, or look at the design. And also, I know you mentioned working with Friends of JP Dog Park. Are you including abutters as part of that group? Because it would be nice to be able to have a voice in whatever you're doing.
Yeah, we can totally have a meeting where we figure out the best approach for the final details of the park. I think that that's a good idea. I'm not entirely sure that both of you guys are going to want to coexist in the same meeting together, but I would be
And why
happy
not?
to.
Why not?
Because you don't want a dog park and they do.
Well, we have done everything we could, as you know. We've had several meetings where we even got to the point where we're just asking for to move the dog park. So not that we don't want it, it's just that, yeah, we don't want it basically, but we're trying to work with what we have now. So I think to have a seat at the table, you know, we're all adults, we can try to work that out. And I offer whomever JP Dog Park friends who are here, you know, we are also friends of Flaherty Park, and we're trying to make sure that as abutters that, you know, we work with what's going on, and that we're heard, and that, you know, we're part of the decision making as well. So I'll stop there and look forward to emailing you to be a part of that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
Danielle?
As somebody who is 12, I wanted to make sure that the play structure and stuff is gonna be like a good level and encompass like Big Kiss too. Also, I don't think that there needs to be another basketball court, because there's like 3 in the neighborhood already.
I guess what she's asking is, a lot of the plans that we were talking about before had like big tree houses and clubhouses and like big climbing areas, so that older kids had a space too. I don't see any of this in this plan, which is what we were, you know, talking about when we had that design. Can we talk about like what's being put in for the older kids?
Yes, we so in this area, and again, early concept, once we move forward and have the program and circulation confirmed, this area will indeed, this is going to be the primary focal play structure for the park, where we're still moving forward with this whole tree house in the woods-ish type concept, to work in, to really tie in, you know, it's an urban park, we have a natural aesthetic here, but moving forward to engage as many children as possible. So certainly, the majority of the play pieces accommodate children 5 to 12 years old, but we have an excellent playground consultant who we work with, who we're really doing some exciting stuff with him, because we understand, I'm sorry, I don't remember your daughter's name, but Your comment is so important because we need to make sure that we are creating a place to accommodate as many different people and ages and abilities as possible. So thank you for asking such a thoughtful question.
And I definitely appreciate that you basically took the star as is and put it in that spot to like make a, you know, size of an open space that felt really nice, you know. My 8-year-old, do you have anything you want to say? No, she's good. All right. Thank you for being thoughtful about this process.
Yes, thank you.
We can also scroll to the next page of the presentation if you wouldn't mind. Yeah, so, you know, we're going to be refining things, but we would love to hear your feedback. And if these play structures look like they're good or they're interesting or they're not, we'd love
I see a lot that's good there, but a lot of what I'm looking at looks like it's for preschool age, maybe like kindergarten age. And I'm not seeing a lot that really, besides the swings, that really is exciting for maybe kids over 6.
So the swings are good
Swings are
because
good.
there's not a lot of playgrounds that have swings.
Yes, we like swings, keep swings. But I'm just looking at a lot of these designs and saying they look on the younger end. So that's all we're asking, because, you know, we have been using the park since she was born, and I have an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old, and they just, you know, want a few bigger structures in with the stuff that's, you know, for the younger kids. So.
Yes, it's very important. And as we move forward, this central area, which from the beginning has been the focal play element, we're hoping to have this moment where you walk into the park and for those kids, it's like I want to be on that, you know, and then for the younger kids, like I want to be old enough to be on that, you know, so very important point, which thank you for emphasizing.
Thank you.
"19 Ackley Street."
Hi, I'm so sorry. I'm on my phone. I couldn't figure out how to put my name or get my face on here. But thank you all for this amazing process. I am in a butter. I live overlooking the dog area, the proposed dog area. I'm very concerned about the space being cut in half and kids being kind of shut out of the area that they used to play ball in. And I'm also very concerned as an abutter about the dust that occurs at dog parks. There is an unofficial dog park about 2 blocks away, less than a mile away on, it's not Brookside, but off of Palmer Street, Beecher Street, that's what it is. I went and visited it. It was a very cold day. The ground is frozen. And it still smelled like feces and urine. And I've been in that park in the summer and the dust is in the air and it's filled with fecal matter. And I do not want to be breathing that in my space. And I'm also very concerned about the kids that want to use the dog area as their primary source of play, the recess kids that come every single day that are in that area. And I'm also very concerned, as you saw in the chat, about the survey. The survey was widely publicized in an opinion piece that was titled "Why You Should Vote for a Dog Park." And that's pretty skewed survey. So I just want to I don't feel as that we as abutters have been heard in this process. I do understand there is a need for a dog park in JP, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. But this park is tiny, you guys, and cutting it in half to create a dog area that's going to cause dust in our neighborhood and fecal matter and all of this stuff, when the park itself is already very widely used by dog owners in very peaceful way. So I want to thank everybody for listening to my comments. I've been in touch with the mayor's office and I've been in touch with Councilor Lara, and they're frankly shocked that the abutters have been ignored in this way. And I'm really skeptical about the survey. I know that it had 79% in favor of the dog park, and 79% of those people were residents, but how many people live directly abutting it and are going to be exposed to all of the things that come with it. So I appreciate you guys hearing my voice. Sorry, I couldn't see my face. And I appreciate this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts. I have to respond a little bit to that, and I understand that the survey was disseminated by a variety of different sources, many of which were in support of dog parks. But once you let a survey out there, it's not exactly in your direct control. So that is one of the faults, one of the problems with surveys. The survey was not the only thing that we went on. It was one of the elements that we went on. And we have had numerous meetings with abutters. And so the idea that abutters have not been heard is unfortunately not true. I realize there are many abutters who are unhappy with this result of having a dog park here. And I 100% sympathize with you. I realize that a lot of you have had a strong role in using this park, maintaining this park, and in feeling very strongly that this is your neighborhood space. And I don't want you to have the impression that I take that lightly, because I don't. Public space in a city is profound, and I respect that. And I just have to say that it's not always, regardless of the participation, it doesn't always go the way that you want it to go. So what I'm going to say is, regardless of whether or not you support the dog use, I hope that the result is better than what you are fearing, and that you will continue to have a space that you abut in your neighborhood, however, wherever it is that you live, that you will continue to enjoy. Thank you.
Melissa?
Oh, sorry. Okay, hi guys. Melissa Hamel. I'm sort of one of the people who are active in the Friends of JP Dog Parks, and I want to just say I'm very appreciative of all of the neighbors' concerns. I think that this happens frequently when a new proposal is made that affects the community, and I appreciate the fact that you do have concerns. However, I'd like to try to assuage you of those fears and let you know that we are your neighbors, and that we have a very vested interest in making sure that this is a successful dog park. We are a large community of dog owners in Jamaica Plain, and we have been unfortunately ignored for over 20 years. We have been advocating for a dog park in Jamaica Plain. And I want to thank the city for finally recognizing that there is a need for a safe place for our dogs to be exercised. And I think that once you have this in your neighborhood, you're not only going to find that your fears are going to not magically disappear, but you're going to find that the neighbors are going to want to make this work. Your dog owning neighbors. We don't want anybody to fear dogs or this area. This is going to be not only a boon for your neighborhood, because we're going to have people who are going to be there exercising their dogs. It's going to be add to the safety of the park. It's going to be educational for your children to come and learn about dogs and how friendly, friendly they are. This is going to be fine. I know you're fearful right now, but it's going to be a great park. It's a great addition. And I just really want to reiterate that we're going to work with you and help you to feel comfortable with this. Like I said, dog owners in the city have been ignored for a long time. I just came back from a trip down to New York City. There are dog parks everywhere, and people love them. They use them. The kids watch the dogs playing. It's a beautiful thing. So please just try to understand, we're not trying to make your neighborhood worse. We're trying to make it better. And I think this is going to be a beautiful park, and the children still have a great place to play. And I think it's going to be a really beautiful merge of dog owners and children and elderly and everybody in the neighborhood. It's going to be great. And I really appreciate you listening to the city and the proposal. And we're your neighbors too. So thank you very much.
Tom?
Hi, I live right around catty corner from the park, and I have a small child who uses that space a lot. I am curious to hear about what the process was about the parts of the park that are being eliminated in favor of the dog park. I know that the original plan included the water park, and I know that there was discussion about obviously like the sports, the dance area. I recognize how you're moving that. I'm curious to know more about the details of how was decided what would stay and what would not stay in the human-based aspect of the park. That's the first part of my question. Part two there is I'm also curious about logistics, about what kind of cleaning schedules will be on hand at place. As someone right across from the park, we've been inundated with dog poop from people in the area who don't live in our building, just dropping it at our place, which is frustrating enough to deal with anyway. And I'm concerned about an influx of that. So I would like to know just some more details around the kind of organizational logistics and maintenance around the park. And finally, I just want to say, I completely respect the enthusiasm from the proponents of the dog park aspect here, but the emotional appeals being put forth are incredibly reductive and dismissive to those of us in this immediate vicinity, like within the block radius of the park, who have legitimate concerns, logistically speaking, and about the immediate impact on our families, that we are not necessarily opposed to a dog park as an idea in general, but we have concerns. We are not concerned about like the emotional happiness that the presence of dogs would bring. We know about that. We love dogs. Dogs are great. We have concerns about the impact on our lives and accusing people who have these concerns of dismissing other members of the community when it is in fact the immediate impact on our community that we are concerned about. And we just want to know more about logistics and how the impacts affect us, not about we're not voting on person, we're not arguing on personhood of dog owners. You are all wonderful people. Your dogs are wonderful. That's all good and well. But to dismiss that there are legitimate questions, I think is really disheartening and bad for community vibes and for progress on this. Thanks.
Thank you for your thoughts, Tom. I think that, everyone's trying to talk to each other, and I'm sorry if you feel that some responses are belittling. I don't think that was the intent. I want to respond to some of your direct questions. So the programs that were chosen for the park, the water spray area sort of determined that there were a number of people who were very opposed to the water spray. There was not a strong surge of support for it. There weren't a lot of people who said, this is the park for water spray and we love it, love, love it. There were a couple of people who wanted it, but given the fact that it does exist down the street at on the park on Green Street, we thought that it was an element that would come out pretty easily and not be installed here. As far as the location of the dog park supplanting the large paved open space that is currently in the park, there are a number of requirements that we like to go with, having to do with locating a dog park, namely being 100 feet from property line abutters, which this dog area does. And because this is a small, thanks Jade, because this is a small park and we acknowledge it is a small park, this is really the only place that we can locate it in the park. Other locations involved taking down healthy, mature trees, which we didn't want to do. Other locations involved locating the dog park on a slope, which we didn't want to do because the claws of dogs erode the slopes after a while and impact the health of the trees that are growing on the slopes. This is a very wonderful park in that there are a lot of existing trees, but it does essentially force the design for where you can install certain things. So that is a priority for this community, we understood from the first meeting, and it is our priority too from the Parks Department. So that has to do with program. As far as a cleaning schedule, we're going to be working out the specifics with our maintenance crew and with Friends of JP Dog Parks to understand, you know, if like, what is the flagging mechanism for, you know, how do we notify people that this needs to get cleaned up? We are going to encourage people through signage to sort of basically self-enforce, like if you see somebody using the dog area, not cleaning up after themselves, you know, we're going to be installing trash cans, we're going to be installing dog bag dispensers. We will be using pea gravel, which is one of the recommended materials that is not something that harbors bacteria. A certain depth will be maintained so that that is something that is the recommended material. We use the Stanton Foundation guidelines. They are a dog advocacy group and grant giving organization. I'm not sure if that answers all of your questions, but I think probably enough from me. And I'm going to turn it back over to the people with the raised hands.
Lynn? You should be able to unmute yourself now.
I just see him. Yeah, Director Butters here, Lynn. Opposition to the dog park in general, but the point is, it's not anti-dog park. It's a small park. It's a historic park. You're questioning why you even need to really do much of the work you're doing there, and why this is happening. You're putting $2 million taxpayers' money into something. The park looks great right now. A huge area there, open area to play with that you don't have in other parks in the JP. You don't need to really cut that in half. You can upgrade the playground, put a couple of new benches in. You don't even need to put picnic benches in. So the question is, why are you even going to the point of fixing up the parking? What was the idea getting behind that? The dog park supposedly came in at some point during the process, but you question whether originally that was the idea, and then the development went around the dog park. Because I just don't see why the whole thing needs to be anything but an upgrade. You look at something. Someone one time mentioned a meeting about Brookline Park. And I said, well, what do we care about Brookline? I said, maybe it's not a bad idea. We'll get somebody. Took that look at Lars Anderson. That place isn't. It's on the same footprint. It's been there forever. They just fixed some of the things that they have. They made it look a little more modern, but they didn't change the whole footprint of this area. It's also, as far as the survey stuff and go, I'm a little older now, but you could sprint up into Roxbury from here, and that's part of the footprint of this area. So just being a JP zip code doesn't necessarily mean, you know, that's who uses more of that park. No one is opposed to dog parks in general. We pointed out sites to be good. Behind English High is a great area down there. People say it's the DCR. The DCI will support it. Ms. Wu and Ms. Healy are political allies. It'd be no problem getting something to DCR now. Maybe it wasn't before the present administration, but the thing is, the abutters do feel that they haven't been included into it because the parks affect us more than anyone else. That's the feeling of the abutters. So they want to have a little input into it. And we also question sometimes when you have interest groups in it to it, you know, they get a little bit hurt a little bit more. And also the question of is there money going to be put into it from the dog park from the Friends of the JP? I know they do that in some of the other communities in South End. They pay for the maintenance, so that's another issue. Thank you. Oh, they heard me. I didn't hear anything.
Thank you. Yeah, no, we heard you, and there was a lot of feedback there, and I understand that there are probably some people who would like just a basic upgrade, but I think that option is no longer really on the table. And I think that we are going to be maintaining the character of the park as much as possible, but there are going to be some changes, and I appreciate your comments, and I appreciate your feedback. Thank you.
Ryan?
Hi, yes. I'm Ryan Fleischer. I live at 25 Cornwall Street. Sorry for being better. Step away for a second. Taking a break from the dog park conversation for a second. One thing I really, and I know you said it from like in each meeting, I've been to all these meetings, and I know from meeting number one, I brought it up and you said you don't have the power to do it, But if there's any like city representatives or any way you could really push for crosswalks across Cornwall Street and crosswalks across Brookside to the playground, that's the one thing I'm just like, please, if you could add those, that like to the direct entrances to the park. And I know that the Parks Department's not responsible for that, but like, if we could, if you could like coordinate as the construction is going, just to add crosswalks, that would be incredible. People speed down Cornwall, speed down Brookside, you know, kids crossing the street all the time. I've watched it. I'm like right across the street from the park. And the other thing I'll add, slightly related to the dog park conversation, I was in one of the abutters meetings, and I'm going to keep my opinions out of whether the dog park, but one thing that was brought up was, you know, a dog park, as we see, there's a lot of people from Jamaica Plain outside of the direct abutters that are interested in this. And like, you know, one thing that was brought in one of the abutters meetings was that will attract people from like across Jamaica Plain to drive to this dog park, which is going to make an already pretty cramped parking situation even more cramped. I don't know if there's a reasonable solution to this. Like, I'm privileged to have a driveway at my property, but like, I know that my neighbors like rely on parking to like access their house and what have you. I don't know if there's a solution there. I didn't hear it in the design plans if, you know, parking is a consideration for that. So I just wanted to see if you could like talk to that, if there's any plan, or if it's just like we're SOL as neighbors and abutters here, to like, you know, there's you know, just gonna be more congestion. So that's my 2 cents. That's one I had. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Ryan. I have had a number of conversations and attempts with streets, and we got to a point where they were sort of looking to see if they could include some improvements in this area with a project that's happening slightly further to the north in Eagleson Square. And I have not been able to hear anything back from them. They understand that traffic calming is a serious desire of this community. They understand that we are renovating the park. And I have not been able to get any further information from them. I know that it's kind of disheartening. They have a program called Slow Streets that was an option for people to get a bunch of signatures and submit to be their next program, their next project. And they actually stopped taking new projects because there was so much community interest in having slow streets. So as you noted, we're the Parks Department and we can't do street markings or raised crosswalks or part of that as our project. But I will continue to try and push that and see if we can incorporate something like that, because I hear you 100%. So hope that answers your question. And I agree, maybe all the streets should be slow. Yes, Yana.
Brian?
Yeah, hi, this is Brian. I'm from Cornwall Street. I've been playing in that playground since it was a flat asphalt field. But I'm just here to reiterate exactly what Ryan said. I'm right up the street, and this Cornwall Street has become a cut through for people going from Forest Hill Street down to Amory Street, and there's got to be a way to slow that traffic down. So hopefully you can somehow get someone on board to help out with that. The only other thing about the dog park, and I'm okay with the dog park thing, but of the several I've seen lately, they were separated into small dogs and big dogs. The under 25-pound dogs are on one side and bigger dogs on the other side. I don't know if that's you dog people will have to sort that out. But yeah, if you could find some way to slow down the traffic, that'd make a lot of us happy on Cornwall Street. And thanks, Ryan. You're right on.
Thanks, Brian. Tracy?
All right. Am I unmuted? My second question, thank you for taking me again. I didn't really get to ask, when will the details, and maybe this is for Melissa Hamill if she's still there. It's really good to meet you. I'm hoping that we can talk as abutters to Flaherty Park. I'm hoping that I can reach out to you or you to me. But when would details about how the park, dog park will be run, like hours cleanup. When will that happen? Like a overview of, the expectations for this dog park. Does anyone know that?
Yeah, I consider that's essentially the same as our parks, which is hours are sun up to sundown. We don't have like locking gates or anything like that. If there are security problems, animal control, 311. If there is, any kind of security issue, as within all of our parks, 911. So it's really going to be on the Parks Department, and we are looking to JP Dogs or JP Friends of JP Dog Parks, I think, to help us with the sort of community aspect of making sure that people are there, who are, understand that what a good citizen should do, how they should behave. If there are signs that are like falling off, they will notify us. If there is a consistent lack of dog bags in the dispenser, they can notify us. They're not going to be responsible for getting out there with a shovel or a hammer or fixing anything, but we're asking them to be perhaps like slightly more responsible community members than your average Joe walking by, to let us know how the dog park is doing, essentially. And obviously, abutters, you guys can let us know that as well. Basically, anyone, it'd be great to hear if there are things that we can address, because it is in our interest as well that people are as happy as possible.
So since this is something new for all of us, will there be a guideline that, kind of list the expectations for this dog park? Because it would be nice to see it. Right? Yes.
A guideline for you. I'm referring to like a sort of rules sign that will be posted on the dog park. Is that what you mean? What do you mean?
Yeah, kind of, sort of. And again, I'm not sure if Melissa Hamill is there, but it would be nice as an abutter, since you're going to be working directly with the JP Friends Dog Park, and I apologize if that's the wrong term for you guys, but it would be nice for us to be able to speak with them and just figure out, what the expectation and, what are the needs for this park is, because, we'd like to know more. And I think they might have those answers.
Okay, but just so that you understand, like, they're not going to be standing there with like vests and shovels actively maintaining it. Like, that will be on the Parks Department. So just so that.
I hope that's not necessary, and I don't expect that, but I do expect a little bit more than what we've gotten in terms of, how this is going to work. So yes, thank you.
Thank you. Edward? You're unmuted.
Hey, how you guys doing? My biggest concern, this is my first time in a meeting, but it seems like you guys have already drawn a conclusion, and we won't have any say over at being abutters of how that park is going to turn out.
That's at this point, there are ways in which we can refine the design that we are looking at here on the screen. But one of the slides that we shared was the timeline for the project thus far. And we have been in conversation with the community, thanks Jade, for quite some time about how this park should be developed. So
I'm sorry to cut you off. So
that's okay.
Basically, I want to know, is the dog park coming, or do we have an option to not have a dog park? Do we get a vote in whether we'll have this dog park or not?
At this point, there will be a dog park that goes
Okay.
into Flaherty Playground. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So thank you for pretty much wasting my evening. Gotta go.
I'm sorry. Thank you for attending.
C? There you go.
Hello.
See, you're having some sound issues. We could hear you for a second.
Okay, now you can hear me? All right.
Yes.
First of all, I wish you had told that gentleman that he should have been part of the project. He said it was his first time, you know? And if it was his first time, a lot of us have been here through the whole process. You know, it's nice that he joined now, but I mean, I feel sad. He's wasting his, you know, a lot of us have wasted or worked to try and work together with our fellow JP residents and abutters to try and get something going in this park. And for someone to come now and be upset that we wasted, that last comment got me upset, and that wasn't why I had my hand raised, but I just wanted to address that. That was kind of sarcastic and unnecessary. But anyway, I am part of JP Dog Parks. I don't know if anybody has read the chats, but in prior meetings, even the first meeting, I'm an RN. I read medical articles. I found a whole bunch of lay articles, which I put in the chats in prior meetings. I don't know if anybody read them, of the benefit of dog parks in lay language, but based on accredited studies from universities and other places. This dog park will be a benefit, as Melissa was trying to say to people, if you give it a chance, and it will enhance the park. And if you're worried about, for somebody saying a non-legitimate dog park has dust and still smells bad in cold weather, well, that's because it's not an accredited or well kept up true dog park, a legitimate dog park. Dog parks, if they're done correctly, and I heard the materials you're using, they usually have a friends group. It won't necessarily be us, but it might be a friends group within the park itself, and it might be members from Friends of JP Dog Parks, will help upkeep and help make sure other dog owners adhere to the rules of the dog park. And most, if not all, dog parks across the country have rules that people who use a dog park with their dogs have to follow. And if they don't, then other dog owners who are using the park usually say, if your dog is not behaving, or if you're not going to pick up after your dog, then you have to leave the dog park. That usually is what happens at dog parks. I've had a pet care. I'm an RN of over 45 years. I'm a mom. I'm a JP resident. And I'm a dog trainer also. And I've had a pet care business. I was a night nurse. Used to run out after a 12-hour shift and go take care of animals, because I'm also an immigrant's daughter and I'm a hustler. So I've had a pet care business for over 32 years. So I can tell you, I sent out all these articles. I don't know if any of you people who've been following this process took the time to read any of the articles I sent out in prior chats to see that this would actually enhance the lives of everybody that uses the park in many ways. And I took the time to do that. And if anybody wants to send me something in the chat now, I'll try and get those articles out to you again, because I did your homework for you. But it's kind of upsetting because I didn't get much response. I also sent 10 or 11 articles to Michael and Kendra Lara, and to hear them or got back to me about them. And they are of the benefits to people even watching dogs at play. So what my point is here is that a lot of us have worked hard for years, and this will be a good thing for the park. It will not necessarily be a thing that hurts anybody, but helps people. And I think I'm the person that should be speaking about this, because I work in two arenas, healthcare and pet care. So I have a unique perspective on this. And I'm very open to someone talking to me about it. If you want to talk to me one-on-one, I'm very open. But
thank you so much, Kaliga. You definitely gave us some good reading afterwards.
Kaliga, which is why
Other
I
meeting.
have a long Spanish name. I live in, yeah.
I appreciate your input, and
All right.
that is, that's great. Thank you so much.
Roberta?
Unmute my audio. Hi, I initially raised my hands because it seemed like everyone speaking was against the dog park. And I am close enough to be considered an abutter. I'm on Cornwall Street. And I just want to reiterate, like C was saying, that most people who use dog parks really do police each other. You know, I, as an abutter, don't want to be hearing excessive barking. I don't want some dog barking in my dog's face either. You know, manners are essential for civilization. And, you know, there are always going to be people who are rude in any group of people. But I think that this is a real need, and I'm very hopeful and pretty optimistic about it being a good situation. There probably will be people who drive to the dog park, probably people who have very young dogs, puppies, who really need to get some off-leash exercise. But I think that there's kind of a lot of unnecessary fear mongering around it. And I think that like myself, there are many people who, if they see a stray poop, pick it up while they're picking up their own. And, you know, this is a need, and I'm glad that it's being addressed, even though I do agree that it is not ideal. And I really appreciate the explanation for why the park can't be on the slopes, because, you know, we all like that area kind of up under the trees a lot better than the flat area. And I really wish the flat area could stay, you know, a sports area, but the trees are the important thing, because that is the character of the park. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Roberta. Someone put in the chat, like, thank you for your measured comments. I appreciate your tone.
Next, we have Eric.
Yes, good evening. I just have two clarifying questions, and this kind of gets into the nitty-gritty details and numbers. But I was hoping to understand what informs the 100 feet kind of barrier or kind of buffer zone between the dog park and abutters, as well as if we know, you know, what informs the designation that 10,000 square feet for a dog park is considered, you know, quote, ideal. I didn't know if anyone could offer any insight to what informs those numbers and decisions.
You're asking the Parks Department to be scientific. It is based, yeah, it's fun. We have derived these rules of thumb. They're not, you know, it's based off of our experience. And 10,000 square feet, you know, we're talking about the land that we have available in the city of Boston, which is minimal. So ideally you'd have like hundreds of thousands of feet for dogs, because dogs love to run and jump, and, you know, but sort of 10,000 is the minimum that we've noticed is maintainable, easily maintainable kind of thing. We do go smaller. There are a number of dog parks that are smaller. And I think it's one of those things where you try and make things fit in the most ideal way possible. And when things don't fit, you know, you try and make it work. So in this park, 100 feet off of the property line, those abutters, is possible. It's been brought up that the people across the street are slightly less. They're less than 100 feet. I think they're sort of like 75 feet. So, you know, our category is like, we don't want to install a dog park like under someone's window. You know, and the square footage is sort of what we've noticed seems to work well in our park system thus far. So that's not like, I wish I could point to like 18 different scientific papers that pointed us towards these conclusions, but it's really just like our boots on the ground experience and what we've seen.
Okay, so kind of informed from anecdotal experience.
Anecdotal and practical, yeah, like our maintenance guys, yeah.
Okay, I just primarily wanted to make sure that, you know, that the dog owners weren't, you know, being forced to be compromised in terms of accepting a less than quote ideal space. Because I know that it's been the recurring history that kind of the dog community in JP has been shot down year after year after year after year, and just wanted to, you know, just make sure that there wasn't anything that we're being forced to compromise given the space, with 10,000 square feet being ideal. Just making sure that, you know, we're not, I guess, forcing to compromise for something that's less than ideal. So that's all.
Thank you, Eric. Stephen?
Thank you. So I'm an immediate abutter to the park. We've lived here going on almost 25 years. I mean, my biggest concerns, we also own dogs. I've had dogs all but 2 years of that 25 years. Right now I have 2 dogs. I use the park all the time. And I'm not clamoring for a dog run, fenced in dog run there. I mean, I could understand wanting to have a space for dogs that was open, that didn't fence everyone out of the park, but I don't understand this project. It just doesn't make sense to me. And I'll tell you a few reasons why. So historically and traditionally and culturally, this park has a small pocket park. It serves the immediate neighborhood. That's what it's for. That's what it was designed for, and that's what it's always been used for. Now you're changing the park to something that is a destination park for people all over the city. Jamaica Plain has plenty of destination parks. We have Franklin Park, we have the corridor, we have the pond. This is not a destination park. This is designed for traditionally, historically, and has always been used by the immediate community. This is a process that is sort of at odds with the immediate community because it's fencing out. I think the previous, caller here was making a good point. We're getting half a loaf. This is not an ideal spot for the dog park. It's small. There's not a lot of parking. It's not conveniently located, and it's just putting a square peg into a round hole. And so what you're doing is giving us half a loaf and taking away what was a multi-use area for this park, for the neighborhood. The major open area of this park is being now compromised for one use, only for dogs. No one's going to go inside and play in this area except for people with dogs. So it's not a multi-use area anymore. It's a single-use area. And you're fencing out a large percentage, nearly 50% of our park for dogs. In this redesign process, it just doesn't make sense traditionally or historically. It's just, I also have a lot of problems with the way the process unfolded. I guess I won't get into that. Many people have talked about this. After the second meeting, if there were so many people clamoring for a dog park, how come the 3 designs that we saw that first came out of the design process didn't include dog parks? All of a sudden, it's there. So clearly something happened along the way. And if it was a survey, well, a lot of us can tell you that it's easy to give to sort of make a process look on the internet look large and voluminous, but it doesn't necessarily represent what's happening here on the ground. Anyway, I appreciate you giving me the chance to talk about this.
Thank you, Stephen.
Joaquin?
Thank you. This is actually Joaquin's dad, Jimmy. I want to reiterate what Stephen said around the process, because the three designs that were presented in the second community meeting, none of which had a dog park included. So if you only came to the first two, you walked away not knowing that there was going to be a dog park. And it wasn't until the third meeting that it was included. I know there's also been conversation in the chat around the survey and not being able to gather the responses and whether or not they were in English or Spanish. And I think that's a miss on us in the city. And I understand, and B, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the Spanish version was not available at the same time that the original survey came out in English. And the other thing I want to uplift around in the chat came around the parks that are available on this side of the tracks of the railroad track. And I just want somebody to do the analysis of how many are available, because there's one between Jackson Square and Forest Hill. To what Stephen said, I don't think the process was as inclusive and as equitable as we're making it out to seem. And I think we need to ask ourselves why that is. Thank you for letting me share.
Thanks for your thoughts. I think there's always room for improvement as far as inclusion. And I think that is something that we're always trying to do better. As far as the translation of the survey, it was requested that we translate it at the meeting. So I think it was shared in English at the meeting, and we were able to get it translated by 2 weeks after the meeting. So the survey was up for a month or 6 weeks. So there was a period of time in which only English was available, but we put flyers on the park indicating that this survey was available. And, I think that the process being sort of confusing, like the first 2 meetings, there were no mentions as far as like the design direction with, including a dog park. That's because our general MO at the Parks Department is not to do dog parks. And, we sort of squashed that pretty quickly in the first 2 meetings. And those points were still brought up. People still said, we want this to be a dog park at those first 2 meetings. And then, there was enough support that we received over email, et cetera, from electeds that we changed direction by the 3rd meeting. So, it was not a straight shot. It was not everyone could tell what was happening. The writing was on the wall. But I think that's the nature of a community conversation. It's that like, you're not always aware of the general feelings. Sometimes surveys are useful. Sometimes, your feeling is that it sort of gave us misdirection. But, like I said, the survey was not the only thing that we were going on. So, I sympathize that there was feeling among this group that the outreach and the predictability of this path was not always there. But I think that's just sort of the nature of the beast of trying to include as many opinions and trying to discern what the majority support is. It's not always easy and it's not always clear. And I think we've done a pretty good job. Was it perfect? No, I get that. Are we going to try and do better? Always. Are we ever going to get perfect? No. Are we always going to try? Yes. So I hear you, and I hope you hear me.
Isabella?
Hi, my name is Isabella. I go to the school Rafael Hernandez, and I'm really excited about this dog park because after school, I can go to the dog park. I can hang out with my dog and my dad, and I can play with my dog. We can hang out at the dog park. So I'm really excited. Thank you for this dog park.
Thank you, Isabella. That kind of makes me want to cry.
We don't have anyone else right now, B. Do you want to check the chat?
Yeah, I'm not actually crying here. I'm just turning off my camera.
Actually, we
There are
have
a number. Yeah, here we go. Renee?
Yeah, thanks, B. I wanted to just raise a point that I don't think has been raised here today. We had heard in a previous conversation that there was commitment from the mayor's office to get one dog park in every neighborhood in the city. And I know that Tiffany is on the line. I wondered whether or not she could address that. And I guess there's a question too, if that is indeed a commitment, then does this mean that JP is done and once this park is in? And so that means no other parks will be feasible in JP?
Tiffany?
Sorry, trying to mute myself. Technical difficulties. Hi, good evening, everyone. Tiffany Caballero from the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services, or the Jamaica Plain Liaison, as many of you may know me. I don't have anything official from the mayor's standpoint in terms of an update for tonight's meeting in relation to this Flaherty Park redesign. But I wanted to thank everyone who's already been in contact with my office, with my leadership, and have been very active in being a part of this process, especially for the direct abutters, who many have come out to my coffee hours and have reached out, like I mentioned, to leadership and or to the mayor herself. I'm looking forward to continuing these conversations, but at this point in time, I don't have any direct update from the mayor's office. Thank you.
Thanks, Tiffany. B, I still don't see anyone if you want to look at the chat.
Yeah, there are so many different comments here in the chat. A lot of different topics. So I honestly am not sure if I bring up one, it's like there are a number of ones that aren't going to get mentioned. I don't know. Like I mentioned before, everything that's put in this chat is part of the document tonight, part of the record. So thank you for submitting your comments. You know, I think there are a number of things here that have been brought up already. I don't know if there's anybody else who wants to raise their hand and share a comment. We still got a couple minutes. Our goal for tonight was to have this conversation and sort of conclude it by 7:30. We're getting there. So I see Danielle Schulman, Rachel Paxton, a couple more minutes. Go ahead, guys.
Danielle?
We just wanted to remind everybody that there's a doctor's office, and we also think that there's like so few seesaws around that we should add a seesaw.
Because there's already a seesaw there and it's a great seesaw.
Kids and we both
Kids love
really
it.
enjoy it, and it's fun to play with your friends, and you can get like a good group of people on there at once.
Also, Dante keeps saying in the chat about the handrails, and I think I know what they're talking about. And B, I sent you a photo of what they're talking about back in, I think, April, and I just resent it on your email so that you can see what they're talking about, that in a way that kids use the playground that's not necessarily obvious from just looking at the playground you may not have seen. So it's in your email again. Let me know if those photos didn't come through.
Thank you. That's great and super helpful. I think there are two things here though, and I remember the photo that you sent me. the ramp, that sort of curved area that, and the portion right next to the ramp, but I think Dante's actually referring to skateboarding.
Oh.
And they like the handrails that go down a number of the steps and the ramp for
Got it.
skateboarding and BMX. And there we go, BMX skateboarding, there we go. And I've been emailing with someone who also is an enthusiastic fan of this. And I was finding this has not come up in this community process. That's interesting because that's great in some ways, because it means it's not a problem by people who don't skateboard. And often where you have a popular destination, that apparently this is, you have people who don't skateboard being like, the skateboarders, but hasn't happened here. It seems like everyone's coexisting, so that's awesome. And you know, I think that scootering, right, like a lot of wheeled activities, we're gonna be, you know, I think the ramp that he's talking about, that you're talking about, is still gonna be maintained. We're also installing a new ADA ramp. There are gonna be handrails. I don't know if we'll be keeping the existing handrails, but we will be installing new handrails. We need handrails at our stairs and ramps. So that's not something that I think is a problem. So
I will say the skateboarders, we've seen them do that a lot. They've always been very respectful.
Nice,
They've always been very respectful of the
they
kids that are there.
also teach little kids how to skateboard too.
awesome. Okay. Thank you.
Rachel?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. I just wanted to express my support for the design. I think it's made a great compromise between all the different sides. I know there's sort of a big war going on here, but you've got a little bit of everything in, and I appreciate even the empty space at the end where people can sit and there's trees and it's nicely landscaped. So, you know, I'd like to end on a positive note that I think you did a good job of pulling it all together with room for all three things that we need in our neighborhood. I did put it in the chat, but I'm concerned about the sound thing, that, you know, if the kids are like playing with this, like whatever sound element this is, it's going to be really annoying to the, you know, quiet reflective area with the trees and the rest of the neighborhood. And I thought we did discuss that at some of the previous meetings, and there was a lot of people voted not to have that because of the sound.
I'm sorry, I was on the chat for 1 second and you said what did people not vote against because of the sound?
The sound, the kids playing with things that make sounds.
Oh.
In the playground.
So we have incorporated some of those elements if those are firmly opposed. I think there was some opposition, but it didn't seem like a huge amount. So I don't know. What are the thoughts out there? People feel strongly in support of it. You know, we don't have to put them in if it doesn't seem like something that's appropriate. And I hear that you're saying it's not. So
yeah,
that's noted.
I would vote no on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm seeing a bunch in the chat, so thank you for bringing that up again. Please no sound elements. A fair amount of sound elements that are getting opposition here, so we can take those out. That's an easy one. And Tracy.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm just a third time goer. Listen, I wanted to address, there's no war going on, and I wanted to make sure that, you know, that's known. There really isn't a war going on. As a butters, you know, we don't want a dog park in this particular space, especially in the middle of the park. I think that's what we were more opposing, that space is used, and that we're worried about the details that have not been laid out on this and how it's going to affect our quality of life. So no war, no fight. It just is, you know, it's people that live and have taken care of this park. You know, we would like to be heard. We would like to be worked with. And I know, B, you have listened to me and a lot. So I appreciate that. I want to thank you for that. But again, It's just being on different sides of the road here, and we can meet in the middle somehow. So when I hear that, things don't always work out for one side, I'm not a firm believer in that. I think that we can work together, even if we oppose and don't agree. So no war. And I'm looking forward to really figuring this out and how we are going to coexist with this dog park. So that's all I wanted to say, because I feel like there's a whole conversation outside of that's not true.
I think that that is a very great sentiment, and I agree that this will be something where everybody gets a little bit of input and a little piece of the design, and I look forward to working with the Butters and the Friends of JP Dog Parks to refine what this dog area looks like, what the sort of final design elements are. I think we've heard a ton of great input, some contentious viewpoints tonight, some great inclusive ones. I think that we've heard the range of feelings tonight. So I want to thank you all for taking the time and participating. I think that this has been great. This has been hard, but it's been good. Never under the impression that community process is easy. So thank you all, and I'll be in touch with those folks that we're going to progress this design with. Thank you so much. Have a good night.